education in the Philippines. University education was started in the Philippines during the early part of 17th century. Originally, the colleges and universities were open only to the Spaniards and those with Spanish blood or mestizo. It was only during the 19th century that these universities began accepting native Filipinos. It is evolved upon learning to the local languages and writing system. They began teaching Christianity, the Spanish language, and the Spanish culture. Education is important by the Filipino parents. Value education as one of the most important legacies they can impart to their children. They believe that having a better education opens opportunities that would ensure a good future and eventually lift them out of poverty. Education during Spanish period is primary in structure, was made free, and the teaching of Spanish was compulsory. This was 10 years before Japan had a compulsory from of modern public education and 40 years before the American government started an English-based public school system in the Philippines. Schools have changed since 1994. The use of technology education has vastly increased since the Education Act in 1944. Only recently has technology taken off in schools and been noticed globally. Many students now have full access to tablets and smartphones within school, whereas before school had minimal access to almost all technology. In present time, educational have K-12 in the Philippines has 3 levels. Primary school, primary education, K-6, junior high school, lower secondary education, 7 to 10, senior high school, upper secondary education is 11 to 12. The Spanish colonial period of the Philippines began when explorer Ferdinand Magellan came to the island in 1521 and claimed it as a colony for the Spanish Empire. The period lasted until the Philippine Revolution in 1890. After the arrival of Spaniards, ancient Filipinos were living in scattered barangays and ruled by different chieftains. The Philippine mythology and folklore is characterized during pre-Spanish period by legends, folktales, epic, folk song, epigrams, riddles, chants, proverbs, and sayings. During American period, the period of American colonialization of the traditional Filipino and Spanish Catholic traditions, with influences from America and other parts of Asia. The Filipinos are family-oriented and often religious with an appreciation for art, fashion, music, and food. Filipinos are very friendly people due to their spirits of kinship or bayanihan, which means they are always hospitable and ready to help people. They are usually always smiling, so feel free to respond to their smile. When you meet them for the first time, a handshake is more appropriate than a kiss on the cheek. Development differs from its human and or cultural context is growth without a soul. Economic development in its full flowering is part of people's culture. Indigenous people have dynamic living cultures and seek their place in the modern world. They are not against development, but for too long, they have been victims of development and now demand to be participants. Indigenous knowledge can help to meet the broader objectives of society. From instance, conserving the environment, developing sustainable agriculture, and ensuring food security, while its protection encouraged the maintenance of traditional practices and lifestyle. But whether the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine will impact the future trajectory of Philippine-Russian relations deserves attention. The conflict is a major blow to the global economy that will hurt growth and raise prices. Beyond the suffering in humanitarian crisis from Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the entire global economy will feel the effects of slower growth and faster inflation. Putting aside the very real human cost, war has also serious economic costs, damage to infrastructure, a decline in the working population, inflation, shortage, uncertainty, and rise in debt, and disruption to normal economic activity. Globalization enhances the student's ability to acquire and utilize knowledge. Globalization enhances the ability of learners to access, assess, adapt, and apply knowledge, to think independently, to exercise appropriate judgment, and to collaborate with others to make sense of new situations. Education tends to raise productivity and creativity as well as stimulate entrepreneurship and technological breakthrough. All of these factors lead to greater output and economic growth. Make a plan to support indigenous communities in your area by donating money to local indigenous organizations, supporting their movements and campaigns, or committing to returning land. Being an ally to indigenous peoples means grappling with the fact that you live in a stolen land.